How do I get up this ladder? I want to escape this silly map. There's no Easter eggs, no story, just repetitive, boring gameplay with at least 42 swastikas, which will surely demonetize my video. Get me the hell out of here. Kino der Toten is the most popular zombies map of all time. On Xbox it has about 21 million co-op entries, and on PS3 it has 24 million entries. It being the only map that was initially unlocked for everyone when it released certainly helped it reach those crazy numbers. But there were some other factors at play as well. It certainly was more accessible in terms of gameplay when compared to a map like 5, and it also was a very safe map, insofar as it seems like a continuation of the fan favorite Theoris, which I'll get into a bit more later. Kino was originally supposed to be part of a DLC for in World at War, but that was scrapped due to Modern Warfare 2's release date being around the corner at the time. Another element that might have helped Kino and Black Ops 1 zombies in general was the game releasing during the rise of the zombie craze in pop culture. Just 10 days before Black Ops 1's release, the pilot episode of The Walking Dead had aired. There were also a shitload of other games and media which had zombies in them in just a span of a few years. Nowadays all games have a battle royale mode, or at least rumors of a potential BR. Well, back then it was zombies infecting their way into many gaming titles. Kino der Toten is actually the first zombies map that I ever played. When I bought Black Ops, I didn't even know that the game had a zombies mode in it, but I loaded up Kino and was absolutely fascinated by it. Simple things like trying out the different wall weapons and purchasing doors to unlock more of the map was just really fun and rewarding at the time. I would play solo games almost every day, or at least every week. Then eventually I met people in public lobbies, and then I would go to YouTube and watch popular players like Syndicate or NGT Zombies play the game. Then I would try getting a high round for myself, maybe play some challenges, or eventually even a first room challenge with some friends. It was a very slow and beautiful process which unfolded over the course of several months, where you gradually learn more about the map and find new ways to engage with the mode. Nowadays, someone who started playing in, let's say, Black Ops 3, if they go back and try to play Kino for the first time, it would be a very different experience. And I suppose it's no wonder that they usually find it boring or basic. They would be able to condense their process of learning and appreciating the map into just 1 week rather than multiple months, given the progression of the game over time, the availability of resources nowadays, and their existing knowledge of more intricate maps in BO3 and BO4. The little phrase in my thumbnail asks, "Is this map overrated?" To which I would answer, well, yes, but actually no. There might not be that same magic when I revisit Kino nowadays, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't fun, good, or important years ago. Instead of acknowledging this, the average player is more inclined to throw around the word nostalgia, and probably use it incorrectly as well. Like I saw this one tweet from NoahJ456 where he tries saying that everyone hates new maps until the maps are old enough to be considered classics. Apart from that being completely off base, you have people replying to him saying, "That's the power of nostalgia." Is it? If someone right now dislikes a relatively current map like Voyage of Despair, why the hell would they feel nostalgic about it in a few years? Like, that's not what nostalgia is.
It'll be a classic one day.
I very much am a fan of traditional map design, where there are 2 different doors that you could open in the first room area, and no matter which path you take, it's very similar and linear. The map layout and design of Kino der Toten is pretty circular. A contemporary comparison to Kino's map layout would be the BO4 map 9, which is very symmetrical, as opposed to something like Blood of the Dead, which is designed like a Resident Evil map or something, and which is often tedious to navigate. I'm also a very big fan of the skybox on the map 9. It's absolutely beautiful. Each room in Kino seems meaningful and has several trainability and camping possibilities. Well, except for this one room in Kino, which nobody ever visits. As alluded to earlier, Kino seems like a safe continuation of the formula that their race had an entire year earlier, which isn't necessarily bad, but there's a lot of similar surface level features going on, like the map design, hellhounds, Nazi zombies, and teleporters. Come on, Jimmy Z, it's a bit lazy to rip off a Blundell map, don't you think?
While we brought the dogs back for Kino.
To Kino's credit, one of its key attributes is the stage area, which was a very approachable location for newer players, which popularized the concept of training zombies. The stage area strategy was promoted by a lot of YouTubers, specifically Syndicate with his Round 67 solo gameplay in December 2010. He was like that one guy that casuals in public lobbies might have known about. Oh, Syndicate, yeah, he's he's the best player they ever done was. Needless to say, that sentiment had a lot to do with him having a lot of subscribers, HD gameplay, and engaging commentary, whereas a lot of the actual high rounders at the time had none of those three qualities. Speaking of players in public lobbies, why the hell do they use a glitch in 2019 when fighting the dogs on round 6? Absolute trash cans, man. In my 5 retrospective, I spoke a bit about the high round scene in early 2010, so I'll try not to repeat anything from that video. A playlist with all my zombie retrospectives will be in the description below. Anyways, I guess I'll talk about the advancement of early Kino strategy specifically instead. As mentioned just before, running the stage area was extremely popular on solo early on, but where would your teammate run if you were playing a co-op game? Initially, people would sort of run around the map together and hit the electric traps, or if you're playing with someone decent, they would stay in the starting room area while the other guy ran on the stage. For many months, I think the highest round for co-op was only in the 60s, but eventually people started to revisit Kino after all the DLC had been released. Relax and End introduced the alleyway strategy for co-op in a 4-part YouTube series in August 2011. This was around the time when recycling the thunder gun in the box and utilizing the colors of players on the map became more popular concepts. Then the next strategy for solo on Kino was running in the starting room with the thunder gun. Then a bit later on solo and co-op, the meta evolved into the thunder gun / trap strategy by the MPL, and trying to prevent the Nova crawlers from spawning in for as long as possible to make your game quicker. Speaking of high rounds, why do I always see screenshots on Twitter for world records where someone is staring at the skybox with their wonder weapon? Usually with some corny ass caption like, "Never give up on your dreams, even if those dreams consist of playing a zombies map for weeks on end until I become clinically insane in the membrane." We did it, gentlemen. We did it. Well, actually I did it. You guys were just a bunch of sorry assholes who watched me play it, so I'll pretend it's a group effort and say we, but really, it was me. Hashtag zombies for life. A few days after this video is uploaded, the final BO4 Ether map will be released, until the inevitable reboot. So I'll speak a bit about my thoughts on Tag der Toten and some of the pre-release narratives surrounding it since it's topical. I've seen a lot of people commend the map name of Tag der Toten, which translates to Day of the Dead, and now it's a nice reference to Romero's film of the same name.
Is there food?
And then they go on to mention how the map name is also brilliant because zombies started with Nacht, or night, and it's going to end with Tag, or day. They're completely glossing over the obvious fact that Tag der Toten itself is a reference to Romero's first film, Night of the Living Dead.
Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Romero's Of the Dead trilogy at the time also started with night and ended with day. So these marks are praising zombies for paying homage to something Romero did over 30 years ago, but they're like completely oblivious to this fact.
Is there food?
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time!
I tell you, man, listening to people's opinions on Black Ops 4 can be pretty unbearable at times, as there's two ends of the spectrum. One side despises the game with utter passion and often dislikes things for silly reasons. Then on the other end, you have people who bend over backwards to defend the game of any and all criticism. One legitimate criticism is that the final 2 maps of the Black Ops Pass are remakes of older maps, Nuketown and Call of the Dead respectively, which aren't exactly fan favorites. So now all 4 maps on Black Ops 4 with the OG characters are remakes at this point, which is a bit baffling. So I'll read you a common chill response to this issue that I've seen quite a bit now. In response to someone making a joke about the final maps being remakes, this one dude, who somehow got 300 upvotes, said, "Makes sense though. They," meaning Nuketown and Call of the Dead, "were maps that didn't really make sense to exist beyond filler. Now they're not filler and have actual interesting reasons to exist."
Rubbish. Get real.
The Zombies mode doesn't solely revolve around the storyline. Call of the Dead is not retroactively filler because it doesn't contribute much to the current narrative. Furthermore, if I can see that Call of the Dead somehow was filler, it doesn't suddenly become worthwhile just because it's remade 8 years later. I wonder how Jimmy Z feels about his filler maps being remade.
I'm just laughing that I'm dying. I think laughing that I'm suffering and dying is great.
Also, there's absolutely no obligation to have DLC 3 and 4 be remakes of older maps. The writers are capable of taking the story wherever they want, and they could easily justify it too. DLC 4 could have easily been a new map that took place in a Wisconsin mall or somewhere arbitrary like that, as a simple line of dialogue or hidden text on a recent map would allow such a choice to make narrative sense. There's not some strict linear story path that has to be adhered to. They didn't write themselves into a corner that they can't escape. But enough about Tag der Toten. I'm sure everyone will cry during the final cutscene and then forget about the map by the time it releases on Xbox a week later.
That wasn't very nice, you know. That wasn't very nice at all.
As per usual, I'll end the video with some fun facts and features of Kino der Toten that I think are worth mentioning. There are a few other versions of Kino which exist, such as the Nintendo Wii version, which has a purchasable OG Wollby by the teleporter. There's also the Black Ops Zombies mobile game which features Kino, not much to say there. Kino was also remastered as part of the Zombies Chronicles DLC pack in May 2017, and also the theater room and stage areas appeared in the Black Ops 3 map, Revelations. In the opening audio cutscene, Richtofen's name is misspelled in the subtitles. First appearance of the Thundergun Wonder Weapon, which is probably one of the most iconic zombie assets beyond the ray gun and mystery box. It's coming back for Tag der Toten. First appearance of the Nova 6 creepy crawlers, which are low-key annoying. As I've grown older, I've decided that anything that messes up my vision is terrible game design. If you stand on the gas, you are legitimately blinded for 8 seconds. You could activate the Alina Sigmund song 115 on the map by interacting with 3 different 115 meteors. Near the stage area, there's a zombie inside a barrel, which is a homage to the 1985 film The Return of the Living Dead. It seems like the design for a stage area might be partially drawn from the World at War campaign mission Downfall. Perhaps they were using assets from that mission when they were originally trying to release Kino for World at War. Possible that Jimmy Z also was watching trailers for Inglourious Basterds in 2009 and said, hey, how about we make a map in a German theater? Other areas of the map, like the Spawn Room, look like they're based on the Central Park Theater in Chicago. Samantha's bedroom has a poster of Faust on the wall. All the kids love FW Murnau. So, that's about that. I'll see you again in a month or two. Bye.